Yes. So basically, the question is regarding the time allocation for bug fixing. However, we can divide this question into like three pieces. Is like how much time to allocate for the dev resources. Should we wait for QA cycles to finish before we start addressing the issues? And how many QA bug fixing QA cycles we need to plan?
Yeah, so the first part, I got the question. So the first part is you're thinking of how you can plan the development, right? So how much time do you need for
Yeah.
Well, this is really trivial question. So the only thing I can say is that, yeah, you have to somehow, I think, you have to somehow collect estimates from your programmers. So you just ask them how long they think it will take. And the only advice I can give is that you have to try to make the tasks you give to programmers as short as possible. That will make it just easier. That's all. So if you're the manager, then your responsibility is to break down the big scope into smaller pieces. That's all. That's all you can do. And then the rest, you just give this task to people and let them estimate. So that's the best thing you can do. Because it's always unknown. So you cannot plan for sure. This is not like, this is not the activities we know how long it will take for sure. It's always a huge amount of unknowns, a lot of risks. So we just don't know. So the only source of information is estimates. Just ask them. I think so. That's the first question. The first part. The second part, you were saying how long. That's more interesting. How can you plan the testing activities, right? Like bug finding, basically.
So it's not only bug finding, but also bug fixing for the bug finding, right? So basically, like let's say we have a normal cycle. We had like 2-week sprint or a week sprint, like something like that. Then we have a development, we have a release, and then QA, they say, okay, we need like 3 days or 2 days in order to actually test whatever was deployed. From the development resources perspective, and from the next step is like, do we need to wait till those 2 or 3 days QA cycle is done? After that, we're addressing the bugs. Should we start addressing it right away? And from the time allocation, kind of, again, it's kind of related to the first question, because developers, they also usually very often they're very optimistic in their assessment. Is like, yeah, we're gonna do it like in 2 days, and of course they assume that it's gonna be bug free, which is never true, right? Like kind of. So I'm thinking about like for a little bit broader perspective from the overall project successful, because it's like delivery, right? It's like that's what we need to deliver to the customer. And like even when we split everything into the smaller chunks, we need to do some at least ballpark estimates, right? So kind of we need to do some kind of plans. Okay, let's have let's say 3 QA cycles, 3 or 4 kind of 1-2 week cycles of development. Okay, so it's going to give us a month or something for the whole that creative cycle. Then we can move to the next stage, is actually release to production. This is one of the examples, kind of.
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on the situation, but I would recommend to go in parallel. So development is development and testing is testing. So testing, I mean bug finding. So bug finding and bug fixing are two separate activities. So you develop, this is one group of people is doing development. So they just get bugs from the backlog or from some list of bugs, and they just fix them one by one. And another group of people is just putting the bugs into the backlog. And then there is somebody else, probably you or the manager, who is responsible for the big picture, is looking into this backlog and prioritize things. That's all you do. So you just have 2 basically flows of control. So the bugs are coming in, and then another group of people just picking the bugs. You tell them what to pick, like from the top of the list. So they take them from the top of the list and they fix them and fix them and fix them. So there are two flows, and you control and you decide which bugs go first and which bugs go next. And then at some point of time, you look at the backlog, and then you realize that now it's a good time to release the product to production, because you don't have critical bugs, because you only have minor bugs, because the amount of bugs is more or less okay now, and you see that testers are not producing too much bugs at this point. It means that the product is more or less stable, and at this moment of time you can release it to production. So you will never have a situation when the backlog is empty. This is just wrong.
That's clear. Honestly,
you have that.
Showstoppers, and there are just kind of minor minor issues.
Yeah, they're always going to be there. So you just have to, you have to encourage your testers to put as much as possible into the backlog, and your programmers to fix them as soon as possible. But you control that by just looking at the backlog and setting priorities.
What should I tell the customers, the business users? Like, how do we, because again, they don't care about the internal development process, all those kind of things is very hard for them to understand. And very often is like, again, if you have an agile team, it's definitely much easier. On the other side, it's not always possible. And very often is like, okay, when is the date? Can you just like provide me a date when this activity is going to be ready? So we need at least to guesstimate something, right? Like you have no choice, kind of. So any recommendation? Do you have any, like, I don't know, techniques or your own, or it's always subjective? Because whatever I found so far myself is like it's just subjective. It's like a little bit of guessing, plus I look at the people, I know the experience, like, you have a little bit more experienced developers, less experience, more accurate, less accurate. So process, with the unit testing, with the CI, definitely helps, plus QA cycle. But down the road, those kind of time allocation is more or less still, I mean, a good portion of those timelines is just, you just guess a little bit.
Well, I would say the guessing is your tool, definitely. So you have to guess. Of course. But when you're going to guess, you have to use your previous data. You have to use your experience. So if you just joined the team, if you just jumped into your project, then of course it's going to be difficult because you don't know. I mean, you don't know how fast you're going to fix. You don't know how good your testers are. Maybe they miss a lot. Maybe they don't see a lot of troubles. How good your programmers are. How many bugs they introduce while they fix something. So you don't know these numbers. But if you work there for like half a year or so and you released like 10 times already, so you more or less can estimate that if you have 50 bugs, then most probably they're going to fix these 50 bugs in a week and they will introduce 20 more bugs because, they make bugs when they fix bugs. It's normal. So you will have these numbers in mind. When the customer is coming in and saying, okay, when is going to be the next version? You look at the backlog and say, okay, I have 100 bugs. So it's approximately 2 weeks and the quality will be so-so. If you want the higher quality, give us 3 weeks. And that's it. That's all you can do. So you just combine your it's called expert judgment, but you have to base your judgment on statistics, of course. And in order to achieve that, that's the main point. In order to achieve that, you need to have your bugs small. I mean, your tickets, your bugs, your tickets, everything. Because if you have in your backlog just 3 problems, and then you have 10 programmers working on 3 problems, you cannot manage that. It's unmanageable because in that case, you will be just guessing and waiting and you will not know what's going on. But if you have 100, small bugs, 100 of them, and then just 10 programmers, then you can more or less estimate more accurately with a higher precision.
You raised an interesting point. Let's say QA, they found the bug, and the bug is assigned to a developer, and then he realized that it's not only his issue. It's like it's a mix of his issue and, let's say, issue in a stock procedure, for example, which was developed by another developer, or it's his issue plus a module for which was implemented by another developer. So what do you recommend? Like just split those one bug into 2 smaller bugs, so we have 2 separate assignments for 2 different developers?
Yeah, definitely. I would, in general, in all cases, I would recommend to split the bug into smaller bugs and smaller bugs and smaller bugs. That's just in general. So if you just an example you gave that the problem is in the database and in the code, so I would split it maybe in 2, maybe in 3 pieces even. So you fix this one first, you fix that one second, and then somebody else combine them together and fix the high level problem. So this is really the best approach. So don't work with big problems because you only block everything. When somebody is stuck on one problem and the problem is like longer than 1 day of work, it's a huge problem. It's really a roadblock. So it has to be like 1 hour, 2 hours of work, 3 hours of work, and that's it. If you can manage that, the entire manageability will be way higher. You will be able to better manage the project, way better.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's probably it.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah, thanks a lot. And yeah.
You have more questions? Shoot me an email.
Sure. So, like side note, like beside the actual question of the project management, what other topics like because kind of I'm following you like on Twitter and kind of periodically watch, you know, your couple of your webinars.
Mhm.
Is it right now the focus on the project management, or there going to be any, I don't know, say you plan to have any sessions regarding the developments or
It's
any other kind of?
anything aside from the coding part, because we cannot code in 10 minutes. It's not possible. So whatever we can discuss about software engineering without touching the code. So about management, about organization, motivation, I don't know, planning, strategy, human resources, whatever, but aside from actual writing code.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.